So joining me now is Jeff Coltin, New York playbook writer at Politico with a deep knowledge of New York politics, who has written on this specific topic. Jeff, so great to see you. Thank you so much for your time. So I first would like to start with what we heard yesterday from Mayor Adams. What is happening right now with the mayor? Because a lot of his talking points yesterday, from slamming cancel culture to doubling down on his call for repealing some of these sanctuary city laws, sounds much more like a GOP lawmaker than a Democrat, which is his registered party.
That's right. The mayor is fully reaching out to Trump, and not just Trump, but to really the entire MAGA movement. I mean, in his press conference yesterday, yes, clips of that were all over X. Elon Musk was posting it, and everybody in that world was saying, wow, I really like this guy. This is a good Democrat. That is exactly Mayor Eric Adams' strategy. He wants to be seen as playing nice with Donald Trump, and he thinks that will benefit himself, and he thinks that will benefit the city. And his main goal here is to slow, or really basically to stop the flow of asylum-seeking migrants into New York City. That's something that Eric Adams has been talking about for basically 3 years, and he slammed President Biden over not stopping that flow. And so he sees Donald Trump as somebody who has said he wants to close the border, and Eric Adams, a Democrat, has praised him on that.
Yeah, and regardless of which side of the aisle people are on, most Americans think that there is a problem at our border. And during his weekly address, the mayor pointed to crime and other issues with migrants, talking about who should stay, who should go. I would like to listen to some of that.
Those people should not be rounded up in the middle of the night. These are people who love our country, and they're participating in our country. Those who are here committing crimes, robberies, shooting at police officers, raping innocent people, have been a harm to our country. I want to sit down and hear the plan on how we're going to address them.
All right, so Jeff, does the mayor, in spite of, how many he may offend, may or may not, does he have a point? What is the situation right now when it comes to this so-called migrant crime versus overall crime there in the city?
There are some real hot spots. I mean, there are some genuine concerns of gang members that are migrants that cross the border as asylum seekers. Now, the mayor himself has said, and many others have said, this is a small percentage of the total, again, 232,000 migrants, or really more, that have come to New York City. But it's a politically important percentage. If the mayor is able to say, these migrants are committing crime, then that kind of can turn the tide against the entire situation of again, asylum-seeking migrants coming to New York City. So yes, it's a small percentage, but it's a politically potent percentage. And that is specifically what the mayor has really zeroed in on. He has been careful in saying that New York City is a city of immigrants. He always, adds that in there. But at the same time, he separates immigrants that have committed crimes. And the mayor has been very strict in saying that he wants a different policy on migrants that have been charged with crime, and he wants to deport them. That is in violation of current New York City sanctuary city law. He has also said he wants to change that New York City sanctuary city law to loosen it up a little bit and allow for more deportations of migrants from New York.
All right, so last question for you, and still along those lines, we saw that Chris Cuomo talked to the incoming border czar Tom Homan last night. Homan seems to be a fan of Adams. Adams certainly seems to be a fan of the incoming administration. What type of collaboration could we potentially see here? Possibly a role for Adams in the new administration? Maybe is he looking for a pardon if he's found guilty of the criminal charges he's currently facing? What could we see?
Yeah, it's not crazy to speculate about a potential job. I don't see that happening. I think more likely, yes, the mayor would like to see a pardon. He's facing federal bribery charges, and Donald Trump himself has said that he thinks that that's BS and that he wants to toss them. Big picture, though, I will say the mayor rhetorically totally aligned with Trump. He's saying he wants to close the border. But in actual policy and practice, New York City has been housing and serving hundreds of thousands of migrants.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.